Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I was told I only have 2.5 hours, so be prepared, okay? And I could talk to you for that long because I've been to Cambodia in 2013, 2015, and 2017. And they have asked me to come back next year and stay a month and teach. And God and I are talking about that right now, so I don't know. But anyway, whatever He lays on my heart, I will obey. But today I'm going to tell you a story. The story is going to be tragic. It's going to be hurtful. But then again, I'm going to tell you about the healing. And all this will tie in, and you will understand why we, as United Methodists, are all over the world to spread God's mission. I'm going to give you a little bit of a history lesson on Cambodia. Cambodia is located, in Southeast Asia. Pretend this is Cambodia, right here. Whoops, sorry. Up here is Thailand. Over here is Laos. And down here is Vietnam. I know you heard about a war a few years ago. I think it was called the Vietnam War, which was not a war. Were any of you here there during the war? Yes, some back in the back. So you saw some of the fighting. Cambodia really wasn't mentioned that much, but there was a lot of the Vietnam War that was fought in Cambodia. And to this day, there are over 3 million landmines still buried in Cambodia. This is a very painstaking process. And what they do is they go out with like Geiger counters and mark where these mines are. But before they get a team together to go out and take care of them, the monsoons have come. They've kind of moved the markers. So, I mean, this is a painstaking process that's been going on forever. Right after the Vietnam War, which ended in, 75? Right after that, there was a regime called the Pol Pot regime, which was this huge army of Vietnamese communists that came in and they absolutely took over the whole country of Cambodia. They killed over 3 million people for no reason. And they started out by saying, okay, because at that time, Cambodia was a very well-educated country. So they started going around, and if you wore glasses, well, of course, they were all taken captive and made to work in the fields, to grow rice, to grow vegetables, which they got none of. Their main form of killing the adults was starvation. That's something that we just cannot imagine. Excuse me. Thank you. The children were of no use to the communists, to the Pol Pot regime. So how they killed the children was so heinous. There's a tree in the killing fields, and it will show you that, and they took the children by the legs and banged their heads against a tree. And at one time, Monica asked me why I don't show a picture of that tree. I do have a picture of that tree, but it's so painful. It's sort of like hearing, okay, Monica was in a car accident, and you just think, oh no, was she badly injured? And you just don't really get the impact of this car accident until maybe you see the car. You see what I'm saying? So it's very painful for me because I was there. I saw all the skeletons, I saw all the bones, I saw all these remains of these 3 million people that were killed. And there are many killing fields that you can visit if you're in Cambodia. That's the tragedy part. And then right after the Pol Pot regime moved out in 79, There was a civil war because no one could decide who was going to rule the country. So again, heartache, tragedy, all the things that go with war and destruction, and all the things that, God, I'm sure, cried many tears then. But in 1989, someone had this brilliant idea to go into Cambodia and start building Methodist churches. Well, to this day, we have 154 Methodist churches in Cambodia. They're built in the villages where the people live, very much like our churches here in the United States. If you think about it, the majority of our churches are in housing developments, are they not? So that makes sense. And Christianity is growing by leaps and bounds in Asia. They are so spiritual and so excited about this loving, living God that has come into their lives. So much of this we take for granted. I was telling Monica, when I get back home, the first thing that I just love to do is to be able to put my toothbrush under the faucet. Because you can't do that in Cambodia. You can't drink the water. When you take a shower, you have to be awfully careful that, you don't get the water in your mouth because it can make you very, very sick. Even with all the precautions, most of the time you still get sick. After I came back in 2015, even though I was taking malaria pills, I got malaria. And then, I went to the World Health Nurse and she said, "But did you sleep under mosquito netting?" And I said, "No, because it wasn't available." Do you remember the netting projects that the Virginia conference had? That shows you the importance of helping out with these projects when the Virginia conference says, okay, no more malaria, It's a fact. Even though you take malaria pills, you can still get malaria. This time, I was unfortunate enough to pick up the Cambodian bacteria, and I was down and out for a couple of days with a very high fever and the nasty stomach ailments that comes with that. But I was prepared. I had my Tylenol with me, and I had my antibiotics, so a day in bed with my coat on and lots of covers to sweat out the fever, and the next day I was ready to travel. I looked like a ghost that had just walked in, but, we had things to do. But the teams that go to Cambodia from the United States are so important. And I want to tell you how pleased I am to be a member of the Virginia Conference United Methodist Churches, because we are the largest supporter in Cambodia. And it's all due to you, all the giving that you do. It's nothing that I do. I just make the trips over there. But we need to pray for our missionaries there. We need to remember why we're there. We need to remember God's command, "Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel." And that's why we're here, to be a part of God's people and fulfill God's command to us, to love one another as we love ourselves, and to take that chance and to, if you have the opportunity, go on a mission trip. It's the most wonderful, blessed thing that you will ever do. And you think, you get this idea, oh, yes, I'm going to another country and I'm just going to be such a blessing to these people. No, that's not how it works. You get there and, they so bless you. They so bless you. I think we have a video that will maybe help you understand a little bit more why we do the things that we do. Do we have that video? All right.
There is a Methodist church, and we have transitioned from missionary leadership. It is a great privilege for all of us to work with first-generation Christians. This is a country of first-generation Christians. And for many United Methodists in the USA, they have not met a whole country of first-generation Christians. But here, it's first-generation Christians. And whatever it is that they do with passion because of the new experience of being disciples of Jesus Christ. It's a very exciting thing for them.
For the Cambodians, it's really been difficult for them because once they make that decision to become a Christian, sometimes they give up family because they're ostracized.
Within a few years, there is a Methodist church, and we have transitioned from missionary leadership to Cambodian leadership.
The missionaries are not driving the mission any longer, but we have taken on a supportive role now instead of being in the forefront leading.
We are determined to grow as a church and at the same time be self-supporting. So, particularly from the perspective of the United Methodist participation in the mission in Cambodia, we are teaching people how to be self-supporting. There's a program under GBGM-UMC that's called Community Health and Agriculture Development Program, where we teach the people that the first basic step is to affirm your hope in Jesus Christ and to move on from there and to feel that you are not helpless people.
I think there's so much for the U.S. church to learn from our brothers and sisters in Cambodia. You could come and learn the passion of our Cambodian brothers and sisters. You could come and learn how they worship and how they serve God, because it's so different.
We are deeply grateful to the Virginia Annual Conference for its support of many years. What is so unique about the Virginia Annual Conference is that it supports all the programs, all the way from administration to the programs with little children, the women, the youth, scholarships, everything. And also because the faithfulness of the people of Virginia Annual Conference is just so stark, it's just so impressive, that we continue to rely, despite the fact that we are moving into self-supporting churches. We are encouraged by and inspired by the generosity of the Virginia Annual Conference.
As you noticed, when they're in their churches, they don't sit in the pews and listen to the music. They are on their feet. They are praising God with every ounce of energy in their body. And it's a beautiful thing to witness because they are so passionate about their worship. And everything that they do, they have a passion for. I'll speak very briefly about some of the things that I brought home with me from Cambodia to sell. And everything that's out there is made by women in Cambodia. And all the money goes back to help women, children, and youth in Cambodia because there's such a need. When we go to work here, we make these beautiful salaries, $30 an hour or $15 an hour, even $10 an hour. When these women go to work in these factories, they are paid $80 a month. So we're trying to help by educating the women. Hopefully they can get better jobs. And one thing we learned this time when we were over there just really, really distressed me. I know if you look in your labels, you're going to see made in Vietnam, made in Thailand. You will seldom ever see made in Cambodia because they think that people think if it's made in Cambodia, it's of inferior quality. So they are required to put the labels either from Thailand or Vietnam in the clothing, which is more than likely you have on some today that's made in Cambodia. Interesting, huh? But one of the most heartbreaking things that I think I witnessed on this trip was we were traveling from Siem Reap to Phnom Penh, and we just encountered truckload. This is on a Friday afternoon. Truckload after truckload after truckload of these women, all in the same shirts that were like, probably 100 in the back of a truck, just, as close as they could be, going back to their homes from Phnom Penh, where they had been all week to work in the factories, the sweat factories, back to Siem Reap to their families. And take, they only get paid once a month, and take their $80 a month with them to afford housing and hopefully a bowl of rice for their families. Again, we take, your mother told you, I know she did when you were growing up, eat your vegetables, eat everything on your plate. There are children starving in China or whatever. True. It's a true fact. Malnutrition in third world countries is still a very, very real threat. And there are people that die every year from starvation. Where we have food banks, and I know you all work big time with that, in Cambodia they have rice banks within the Methodist churches where they at least can give out rice so that you can have that one bowl of rice once a day. So don't go to Cambodia if you don't like rice, because you get it 3 times a day. But we were fortunate. We got it 3 times a day. So love rice if you go to Cambodia. It's just the most beautiful thing in the world to see these first-generation Christians. And the gentleman that spoke, his name is Romy. He's head of General Board of Global Ministries in Cambodia, and he's retiring in June, which we're really sad to see him go because he's done so much for the country. And the lady is Esther, and she's a missionary there. She is from Kenya, but God chose her to go to Cambodia, and she is doing such a beautiful ministry there. So I just want to say in closing that there's always something that you can do for people all over the world, even if it's just to pray. So prayer is such an important thing for all of us. Pray for your first generation Christian brothers and sisters in Cambodia who have just been able to experience this love and this hope. And this is why we call this the Initiatives of Hope, because they've been through so much despair, so much tragedy, and this loving, living God is giving them hope. We're talking about a country that's 90% Buddhist, and many of the Christians are being tossed out of their homes. Other things that are, really unpleasant happening to them. They are totally being persecuted, but their will to believe in this loving, living God is so strong that they're willing to go through this persecution. So it's a beautiful thing. So if you can't do any other thing, please pray for your brothers and sisters in Cambodia. I thank you so much, and I will leave you by saying Akun, which is thank you in Cambodian. Thank you.